Hello, everyone. Welcome to the RTL Beach. The weather was not so good this morning, but right now it's good. And it's my pleasure to welcome the World Federation of Advertisers with this great topic. The future of measurement is here, and advertisers are in the driving seat. So please take a glass, come to the stage, and we are ready to listen to our great panelists. Matt, over to you.
Thank you, JB. Hello, everyone. My name is Matt Green. My name is Matt Green. I'm a director at the WFA. Delighted to be here. My second panel on the RTL stage this week. It's great to be speaking to you today about the future of measurement. And indeed, we believe that advertisers are firmly in the driving seat. So I'm going to bring on my panel shortly. I've got five fantastic senior executives who are going to talk us through these big issues. Before I do, just a handful of slides of context. So why are we here in the first place? It's advertisers who've precipitated, demanded change in the industry. Here's one of them here. This guy's called Kanishka Das from Procter. Unfortunately, he couldn't be with us today. But he's been very outspoken, as many other advertisers. He's been very outspoken. He said, you know what? It's not good enough. Advertisers, it's not working for advertisers. We're frustrated. It's not working for media companies either. And it's not working for consumers either, because consumers are being over-frequencied by the same ads. So there's lots of problems for all parts of this industry that we need to fix for. Okay, Jolene? So we at the WFA some years ago thought, well, what would the right kind of measurement solutions look like? What would be the composite parts that would set up for the right kind of measurement solution? Thank you, Rob. Okay, so here is what we describe as our North Star. And we believe the measurement solutions should be consistent and continuous, always on, if you like. So advertisers can log into systems today to see what yesterday's deduplicated reach and frequency looks like. They should be full life cycle. They should be planning modules. They should be intra-campaign optimization vehicles and post-campaign evaluation. They should be comprehensive, so we can look at the entirety of a campaign, not a segment, not just a particular format, the whole thing across all of our media formats. They should be full funnel. We should be able to look at outputs such as reach and frequency, and I would argue that's a fantastic place to start, but we should be looking beyond that, outcomes, other outputs and outcomes too. That's what advertisers want. Naturally, these solutions should, as much as they can, they should be fair and objective and transparent, and they should be held to appropriate standards. Privacy is perhaps the most important thing. In this world, this day and age, everything must be privacy by design. That's absolutely critical. Trusted and transparent, again, really integral that these solutions need to be held to the very highest standards enshrined through audit. And naturally, we should be measuring advertising. Advertisers would advocate for that, wouldn't they? But we believe we should be measuring content as well. And naturally, our sell-side broadcast partners, I'm sure, would share that view. So here's what we feel that cross-media measurement solutions should look like. And on my next slide, Jolene, thank you, what I wanted to talk about today is that with a fantastic collaboration involving loads of the industry, but in particular my partners at ISBA and ANA, we've built a system. It's an open source software system which can solve for the North Star needs that you've just seen, okay? We believe this will be trusted. It's being built right now. Part of my panel will explore how this is actually being put into life in two very large markets. But these systems, we believe, what we've got here is something that can be trusted. It should be trusted because it has privacy by design. It's got a transparent methodology. It's open source. What could be more transparent than that? It will be submitted to audit and validation standards. It's scalable. It can be deployed across multiple markets in a way that measurement solutions haven't been done in the past. And it has the flexibility to accommodate market nuance, important thing. It's credible. What we believe we have here is something that's very credible. It's advertiser-driven, which is unusual, but there's a sea change coming. Advertisers want to be driving a change to the measurement approach. But what we've built here is designed to be for the industry, it's designed to be neutral, and it's designed to represent fairly all different media channels. So on my next slide, I'm not going to get into the technology that the Halo system relies upon. I'm not going to get into that in any particular detail because it's not quite the right forum for that. but there are many technological components, as you might imagine, within this system. One of them, which is perhaps the most well known, is the virtual ID or the virtual person framework. And this is a system whereby advertiser impressions can be represented in a synthetic population through a virtual ID model, which is trained on a single source panel. So this is a means of converting first-party impression data into a privacy-safe fashion, putting data into a population which represents a country. There are 67 million people that live in France. There should be 67 million virtual persons. And the process that we have within this technology is about assigning advertiser impressions into the 67 million using a very privacy-compliant and reliable fashion. There are many more components to this technology. But right now on my next slide, what I wanted to do... I do have another slide, apologies. Here is another one of our key constituents talking about how the virtual ID is a now proven concept that is going to help solve this problem. So this is a system, this is a concept which is gaining increasing recognition. There are a few people that challenge that this is a very sensible way of measuring media in 2024 and beyond. So this is the way forward, we believe. And on my next slide... okay. On my next slide, what's really interesting here is going from a framework to reality. Okay, so the Halo framework is open source code system, but what it requires is execution in a market. It requires market leaders to build that out into a full production system, and that is exactly what's been happening in the UK and the US. With ISBA, who set up an organization called Origin, and the ANA, who set up an organization called Aquila, both of these organizations are executing that framework to build real systems that can accommodate real data, and you advertisers will be able to use these systems in these markets and hopefully others beyond, because this is the start point, two of the biggest ad markets. Beyond that, we want to work with our other domestic partners to have this system rolled out internationally. So it's a very, very exciting time for this program indeed. Now, I'd like to bring my panelists on, so I'm going to invite these four fantastic media executives up to the stage. So please a round of applause for Gerry D'Angelo, who is an advisor and a former VP for Global Media for Procter & Gamble. Sorin Patilinet, Senior Director, Global Marketing Effectiveness at Mars. Maggie Burke, Global Director of Client Councils and Industry Initiatives at Meta. Bill Tucker, Group EVP at ANA, and also Aquila. And Phil Smith, Director General at ISBA, and also responsible for the UK Origin system. Thank you very much, guys, for joining my panel. Gerry, you're going to need a microphone because you're up first. So my first question is for you. Now, you recently retired from Procter & Gamble after an illustrious career working for many different advertisers, did you not? So I'd like to hear from you first. So, you know, P&G is a famous proponent of reach, isn't it?
Yeah,
I would say.
absolutely. Reach-based planning.
Right, so, you know, what we're designing here is a system that can measure cross-media, deduplicated cross-media reach and frequency. You still need that? That's still an important system for an advertiser like Procter & Gamble.
Before I answer the question, I just want to say congratulations to you and the rest of the team and many, many other people out there, because I remember 5 years back being at the inception of this, to go from the need and the idea to something very, very tangible in a number of big markets around the world, I think is nothing short of miraculous. So well done to Matt, the rest of the team, Phil, many, many others, Accenture, many others who've brought this to fruition. But what I would say is, in order to understand the importance of cross-media reach and absolute reach, you have to understand the importance of how advertising works. And if you think about a company like Procter & Gamble, the idea of having segments that you can sell more and more to, so get them to increase their purchase frequency, is actually quite difficult in the real life. There's only so many bottles of shampoo or laundry detergent that someone actually needs in their lives. And the real key to category growth, and by extension brand growth, comes from driving household penetration. And one of the things that P&G, certainly in my time there, that we were very successful at doing was connecting business media metrics and media performance to business outcomes. So we knew that if we could increase reach, particularly monthly reach, we would be able to translate that into monthly household penetration, which in turn drove the business. So if you line things up like that, you can start to see that optimizing cross-media reach and frequency, and particularly minimizing the frequency and extending the reach, that becomes incredibly important, particularly when you're talking about millions and millions of dollars that are being invested in media. So I think it's absolutely critical to how you drive growth for a number of businesses, and as a result, very, very critical project for us.
Brilliant. Okay, so we still need this. Sorin, you're a big advertiser, also a big proponent of reach, I think, is Mars.
Yes.
So tell us, so we know it's an imperative, we know it's important for Procter, we know it's important for Mars. How does what we're building here with Halo and with Aquila and with Origin, how do these live solutions and how does this framework, how is this solving the problem for what we know as a need state?
So I see now why we got a single mic, because everything that Gerry said is D2 for me. I mean, Mars is also a reach-based company. We are reach first, but we struggle to measure reach, which is a little bit ironic. Hopefully not in the future, because I truly believe in this solution. I would have not been here on stage if not. When I think of Halo, I think of 3 Ps. And those 3 Ps are extremely important for Mars. One is privacy, the fact that we are building something together using the best minds in the engineering space. To build a privacy-first solution is mandatory. The second P, it's personal. I mean, the word single source is very close to my heart. I've been a cheerleader for single source panels and solutions that are individual based for years and years. I love the fact that we are building on something that I consider gold standard. So we want personal data level. And the third P, from someone coming from Mars, the third P, it's planetary. I know we're talking here mostly about the US and the UK, but we are looking at other markets as well to embrace the platform and allow us to make those trade-offs that we want to make between markets as well.
Excellent. Okay, great. So, guys, I'll start with you, Phil, and then I'll come to you, Bill. So we've heard that 2 big advertisers value reach and frequency. We know that this is solving problems for Mars. So you guys are actually, you're hearing the same thing from your local constituents, who are the same in many cases. But what's happening here is the hard work of actually building a system from a framework and deploying that. It's enormous, right? Can you give us a potted history of where you're both up to with this? You know, it's been a long journey, hasn't it, I think? So I'll just go to you, Phil, and then...
What he means is he wants me to be brief. And that's quite hard, because this is actually longer than a 5-year journey for us. This started at ISBA some 8 years ago when I joined. And the WFA framework has really allowed us to turbocharge that work and create the Origin program as a global prototype along the lines that we've just talked about. But where we are now, after all the work that's been done, is we have a panel that's been built by Kantar for us, you know, a gold standard cross-media measurement panel. We have panel exchange working with large platforms as well. We have infrastructure that's been built for us by Kantar that brings in the Halo code, creates the local integrations, and a user interface as well. We alpha tested during the course of last year, and we're just about to go into beta test with some 35 advertisers who've been supporters of this program all the way through. We've got live data already flowing through the system, so people are going to be working on real live campaigns through the second half of this year. We've got an audit framework for the whole system as well, and our goal is to get this into market around the tail end of this year, at the same time as spinning off Origin as its own entity from which it stands on its own 2 feet. The other thing to say that we've done, which is really important, is we've created a sustainable funding model which drives the future of Origin from the buy side. So a funding model which in life we think will generate some 60% of its funds from advertisers and from brands in a way which is voluntary, but we hope will be largely automatic. And we think that's really helpful to make sure that we don't fall into some of the traps we've seen in the past of dropping into silos or becoming subject to vested interests. So we're in really good shape. I hope that was brief enough, but that was 5 years in 2 minutes.
5 years of hard work. Bill, there's been a recent exciting announcement from you.
Yeah.
Tell us a bit about where you're up to.
I want to just bridge the marketer. One of the questions is, what's the appetite for this in the U.S.? We had a third-party consultant, Oliver Wyman, do a lot of assessments just in the last 90 days at the A&A. The number one priority of our CMO community, Global Growth Council, board, and the rank and file was literally cross-media measurements. So we know we're on to something that will be adopted. We've been part of the journey in terms of validation of the vid, which Matt presented. It works in the United States. We launched last week formally an entity wholly owned by the ANA. The name is Aquila, and the Aquila will bring the solution to the marketplace. We did a very substantial RFP for panel providers, selected Kantar, have contracted out Kantar. The panel is beginning to be built, where we have homes. We're working with Accenture on technical requirements and technology. We're going to benefit greatly from the work that Phil and ISBA and Origin have done in terms of technology with Accenture so that we can take advantage of that, which will accelerate. And our plan is similar to the UK. Funding has come in from brands, platforms, and we'll have an ongoing funding mechanism with great language. You know, my credit to the Brits. The fractional advertising contribution is a lot better than some kind of levy or tax. So that's being socialized right now to our board. So we're catching up. We plan to be in beta by the end of second quarter 2025, MVP by the end of 2025, and then off to the races.
Yeah, amazing progress. So 2 of the biggest ad markets with the same solution in place, with a commercial model in place, looking very, very exciting. But Maggie, you've been a key supporter and a funder for these programs as well. Tell us a bit about your appetite to be part of this. Why do you want to be part of these programs? You want to be measured, I guess. Tell us a bit about why you want to be part.
Yeah, definitely. And first, I just want to echo what Gerry said. It's pretty amazing to see something that has been underway for 5+ years now actually coming from theory to a real product. So congrats to everyone involved. From a meta perspective, I mean, this really comes down to this is an advertiser-led initiative. We've heard this as the top problem as one of our advertisers are trying to solve. And this is a really unique forum where the entire industry can come together to solve and collaborate on that solution. So the fact that it's open, that it's transparent, that anyone can join is something that has been very appealing to us from a meta perspective. We're also really interested because it's privacy at the core. So the technology has been built so that as regulation continues to evolve, as we continue to see decline of the cookie, that this is a solution that can sustain us for the long run. And from a meta perspective, that's really important. And I think it can't be lost to say the value that this is going to bring to consumers. So we know that there's excess frequency in the media ecosystem, and we truly believe this is going to be a critical tool to helping to reduce that and to improve consumers' experiences with digital advertising. So we're thrilled to be a part of it and just grateful for all of the progress in the partnership.
Amazing. Okay. So we've got solutions coming through. We've got participation from some of the biggest media owners. We'll talk a bit about the elephant in the room in a minute, like the participation of the rest of the industry, because we'd love that as well. But before we go there, I'll just come back to you guys because, I'll start with you, Sorin. I'll start with you. So advertisers, clearly, you want to change the way the measurement works. I think it's implicit that you want to have your hands on the data, maybe more than you have done in the past, because it's tended to be your agency partners who have been the ones, I think, that have managed systems such as this. So we're seeing a change here. So the question is, tell us a bit, Sorin, about how you would envisage using data from these systems. Is it you, Sorin, that's going to be using this? Will you have access to it? Is that what you want, or is it your agency partners, or is it both? How do you want this to work? Because I would say that in the past it hasn't been advertisers who've had their hands on the keyboard with these things so much.
Certainly not. I mean, I think we would not be able to do anything without our agency partners. So I think at the first stage, our agencies will be 100% involved in using and optimizing our plans based on reach and frequency. We have, as you said, this challenge of thinking that we over-index in frequency, but we don't know. And we would love to know so that we can reallocate those investments to other brands, to other campaigns. It's not a matter of cost saving here. It's just a matter of being able to support more of our brands with the right investments. whether that will be an agency or advertiser-led department, I think it should be done in partnership, but I see an increasing role for the advertiser to take control of that reach and frequency, and hopefully we'll get to the next stage of business impact as well. So I'm very interested in the sales impact of cross-media, as you know.
Oh, are you? Yeah, so you want to see outcomes as well into the future?
Absolutely.
Okay. Gerry, have you got any sort of build?
Just a quick build to that, because I think the question is much more about where should the work be done, and I think that the answer to that question really depends on businesses and their context and where they're operating and how they generate value and where they see value being dissipated in the system. But if there is valuable data coming out of this initiative, which I'm sure there is, because we've just demonstrated that it's linked to maximizing reach, then that data needs to be lined up where the decisioning is happening. So the data needs to drive the decisioning. And I think KD, my ex-colleague, he'd be saying this if he was here, which is one of his stock phrases is about letting the data flow. And so I think it's really important to get the data to where those decisions are being made so that you can maximize the return on investment. If over a period of time, those decisions are made at different points, whether they're in-house versus outsourced to the agency, I think that might be another issue. But you've got to get the data into the hands of the people who are making the decisions.
Okay, I'll just invite you two if you've got any comments on that. Well, actually, I'll start with a question. Actually, my question being, the systems that we are working on here are as Gerry has alluded to, are designed to flow impression data in, quite a lot of impression data. And the systems are designed to have perhaps a default around an MRC metric, if that's how you want to do it in your market. You might not. Other markets might want to do it differently, but I think that's the way you're both envisioning that this system would work in your markets. You'd have an MRC default, but the users could value impressions at different levels if they so wanted to. There's a lot of impression data coming into the system. Now, this creates some controversy, doesn't it? I would say.
Well, not least because that's not quite the way we've done this. So, I mean, let's start with the fact that it's not just impression data that's coming in. You know, this is calibrated to a panel and to users. So, go back to Sorin's point. So this is people-centric at its heart, and that's what the VID model, the virtual ID model, does within the system. But beyond that, the framework, the WFA North Star, talks about fair and equitable metrics, and at the same time, KD and others will be saying, let the data flow, because we as advertisers want to be able to not just plan and report on like-for-like apples with apples, but be able to evaluate and ascribe value to the different parts of our campaign. My members know that not every impression is the same across every medium. Never has been for cross-media. What we're trying to create here is the basis for media-neutral planning, the rich, trustworthy source of data that allows people to plan on the basis of campaigns that are optimized for their needs. And what members have said to us for some time now is, look, for years I've been served up with planning recommendations that are based on non-transparent, non-accountable ingestion of data, in which, in some instances, we have seen completed views. Well, in many instances, we see completed views combined with served impressions to create a reach count, which is very much apples with pears, without there being any way of disentangling that and understanding the different value. Within the origin system, for the first time, you're going to have all of those metrics, and you will be able to have a level of customization that allows you to say, okay, so I want to see completed views, I want to see MRC 2 second, I want to see all impressions, and you can do that because that's going to be based on an understanding of how your campaign is going to be working. So, look, we think that's a fundamental part of the system. You talked about the elephant in the room question. I was going to get the elephant in the room, so I might as well do it proactively. People will know that broadcasters in the UK aren't involved. And one of the concerns that they have raised with us, probably the key concern, is a worry that Origin might help the commoditization of their medium. We understand that's a legitimate concern. What we would say is that's been happening for years through the unaccountable data with uncertain standards being applied to them. For the first time, this gives them the ammunition to be able to level that playing field. And we are pretty certain that over time we're going to be able to prove that case. So the relationship we have with broadcasters now is, I would call, from my side, we call it a watching brief. That if advertisers, through the beta trial and beyond, do the things that we expect, which is to make intelligent decisions on the basis of the data, then we expect there to be a higher level of comfort emerging in the market. You know, if they do use it to make bad decisions, then clearly that's going to be a separate issue. But just on the basis of what you've heard this morning, I think you can be pretty clear that's not the intent of what we're trying to build. So I'm very confident that over time, that will come right.
Bill, would you like to expand and talk a little bit about?
I think Phil really nailed it. The technical ability for any brand to implement their definition of quality as they want to define quality is integrated into the tech, into the system. Tremendous input from the TV side on what quality is, right? There's been lots of conversations with TV, so their input and feedback actually is in the system, even if they're not here today. We know at a deep level it is. So we feel really good about that. And then the MRC part of it, I think, is really important too. The standards is a common principle that third-party verification standards are enshrined, so that no one can claim it's not it's anything other than an open system, and that's kind of like the assurance that stands really tall in the United States, particularly with the TV companies.
I don't know if we've got, it's not lost on me that we're on a broadcaster's beach here. I don't know if we've got any broadcasters in the room. I've seen Stefan Korubler wandering around. I don't know if he's still with us. Are there any broadcasters here who would like to comment on this? Because it is curious, or it's interesting, or it's a shame that the broadcasters aren't in this collaboration. So I just wondered if there's any sort of opportunity to get some feedback from our broadcast friends. No. Okay.
Matt, can I add one quick? So, is it helpful to think about the data being used differently for optimization and for transacting? Is that a?
Sorry, Gerry. That's a really good prompt. We have a set of use cases that come out of the WFA North Star that are about planning, reporting, and evaluation. We are not setting out to create anything that is intended to be a currency or even to displace existing currencies in the market. We recognize, particularly for things like linear TV, you do need to be able to make apples with apples comparisons on a gold standard basis to be able to transact. And we have designed Origin to be compatible with existing joint industry currency data, and even to bring in that data, to put it through the virtual ID models and to be able to replicate it within our results. And we've demonstrated that through proof of concept work we did right at the start. So we are in discussions with Barb about, we have a license currently, we're still in discussions with Barb about being able to bring data into the Origin system. It's our hope that you should be able to do that. We'd like to see more granularity within the data as well, but that's something that is very much within the gift of Barb. But as I say, we're not there to undermine trading currencies.
Okay, brilliant. Let's come back to you, Maggie, with a different question now. So you're a big advocate for this approach. You've been supportive of the UK and the US markets building this system from the common framework. What's your appetite for scale? Because there's quite a lot of interest, as I said in my introduction, from other markets. In Germany, in Belgium, in France, Greece, Turkey,
India,
Italy.
Australia.
Exactly, quite a lot of people who said, hey, maybe. And so there's varying levels of seriousness, I would suggest. But what we anticipate is when these two markets get up and running and start producing data, and on the assumption that the market likes that data, and I'm sure it will, then we could really, we've always wanted to catalyze a Mexican wave, haven't we? What's your interest to support these solutions being put in place elsewhere in the world? Would Meta be supportive of trying to make this happen in many other markets? Because that's clearly Sorin's interest, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. The reason that we engaged in this in the first place is because this is a global advertiser problem. We love that the WFA and the advertiser are at the center of this to make sure that what the technology is built that's open source gives us one way to integrate our data. It's painful for us to integrate our data country by country in very different ways, and this gives us one privacy pipe, basically, to ensure that we're confident in the way that our data is being input into the system. That said, it's always been our intention and interest in this being scalable. It's just that this has been a long road. Everybody on this panel can attest to that. It's a lot of work. It's a heavy intention, heavy resource intensive. And so we've got to get it right in the US and the UK and make sure this actually does solve the challenge and that the data that comes out of the system, we're going to start the beta in just a couple of weeks, actually does solve the advertiser problem. And if it does, then the appetite to scale is very much there. And I hope that we've found some efficiencies along the way that actually, and we're starting to see that between the US and the UK, that actually make it easier as we go into into new markets. But beyond that, I also just kind of want to build upon what he just said, which is just that we also just think reach and frequency is the beginning. There's new privacy-enhancing technologies emerging that can enhance the system over time. We really believe that outcomes is what's going to make this exponentially different than anything that exists today. And thinking down the road to future use cases, maybe sustainability measurement in the future. But I think it's really on everyone to continue to iterate. So if we get this foundation in place, how do we continue to work as an industry to solve the next round of measurement challenges that are going to be facing us? So lots of interest for scale, but also how we can continue to evolve to make sure we're meeting marketers' challenges.
Amazing, thank you. Yeah, there's been lots of ideas around how CO2 emissions data could be incorporated into these systems in the future, which is definitely food for thought, isn't it? Okay, look, I will end with one final question for you all, which is, what would success criteria, were we to be here in 12 months' time, what would success criteria look like for you all? So I'll start with you and I'll just go along the line, Gerry.
Just very, very quickly answering it in a very P&G style, which is that the business moves when you are driving success for big businesses in big markets. So I think I would apply that same thing here, which is to start with the total TV spend globally and then just go down market by market, just really try and knock off those really big markets. And if we can get penetration down to a good number of the top 20 markets, I think that would be very successful over a period of time.
Well, go to the markets and try and collaborate with them directly.
Absolutely, but start with the biggest ones.
Sorin.
So D2, I think I can say that for Mars, UK and the US are less than 50% of the global media investment, and our aim would be to cover 80% of that. We're missing 7 markets. We're not missing 25 markets, so that would be one. And we also can't forget the fact that we want more partners into this. It's simply not enough to just have, and the solution is ready, so we really want them.
Maggie.
The rest of the media ecosystem comes on board. That's what, because that's how we're going to actually meet the advertiser need. And the advertisers are seeing success. If we get there in the beta through the next couple of months, I think we're going to be in a really good spot to show that this is actually meaningfully changing business and improving the quality of digital advertising.
Bill.
A year from now, we'll be into beta. Our panel will be scaled and is continuing to scale into the middle of next year and beyond. We'll be on plan for MVP. Key roles in Aquila will be in seats for 9 months and running with the leadership team, and taking advantage of the work that and the learnings that we can from the Origin beta is always kind of critical for us.
Yeah. Year from now, really strong advertiser and agency adoption based on the returns cases that are being made from the beta trial and beyond. More industry collaboration, a real rapprochement across the industry would be a fantastic thing to achieve, and a really solid roadmap that takes us from where we will launch, which is about 64% market coverage by value, up to 80% in short order and beyond, and critically that gets us to the ability to deliver data that can power outcomes measurement.
There you go. Brilliant. Hard yards, but amazing progress recently, isn't there? So I'm really excited. It's one of the most exciting programs I've seen in my 10 years at the WFA. Won't you please give a round of applause to these 5 amazing pioneers who are changing the world of measurement. Thank you all very much indeed.
Thank you.